Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This, of course, is the talk show and podcast where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, music, news, pop culture, everything really. Depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guests are a band who will be dropping their new EP February 19th. We are with Fly by Midnight. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, tell us what they do in the band, and we will get into it.
Wow, that was a killer intro, Pete. So my name is Justin Bryte. I'm one half of Fly by Midnight. And yeah.
I am Slavo, and I'm the other half of Fly by Midnight. We both sing, for those of you who don't know. And we both play instruments. I play guitar, Justin plays piano. And yeah, we've been doing it for a little bit, man.
Justin Slavo, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us, homie. Yeah.
It's always a pretty exciting time when new music's coming out because it's kind of the, accumulation of kind of making this music, trying out different things. You know what I mean? There's a lot of growing pains here and there, and it's finally coming out. Like, what is that kind of like for you guys, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, every new project we release, and you kind of just touched on it, but it's an evolution, right?
Yeah.
And I think for us, this project has been kind of, what's the label, like a little bit over a year in the making?
Yeah, right when the pandemic started, honestly, is kind of where the idea really came to fruition. And yeah, kind of took shape, and it's been a little bit of a journey.
And it's been cool for us too, because the project is an all collaboration release. Every song is featuring a +1. And it, in a time that we feel so disconnected from everyone, it was quite the challenge to be connected with these artists and make this happen. So it's super rewarding, Pete, and we're just excited for the world to hear it.
It's crazy that you mentioned that because that was literally my next question was the collaborations, because I feel like one thing that kind of happened is, because of the pandemic, you guys weren't able to tour or play shows, but the abundance of collaborations on songs was like insane. Like there were so many. I just want to know, Slavo, like, when you're putting together like a collab, or you have an idea for a collab, I mean, some of them it might be like, managers got in touch, you'd be cool to work with, right? But like, were there a lot of genuine, just kind of like really cool organic interactions with people that you're like, hey, I like your sound, let's get on DM, let's just like see if we can make a sound together? Like, how did those collabs come to be?
Yeah, it's funny. They each have their own little story. Yeah. And, Justin and I are big fans of being super connected with who we're working with. And, today in the world of social media and technology, we can honestly DM each of these people and people that we want to work with. And more often than not, they get back. And that's kind of been the case for this whole project. It started with Clara May, and, that song was one, Lost Without You was one that we had for a year and a half or so that was just kind of sitting there. And when we were talking about these ideas, that was the only duet we actually had slated as a duet as a demo phase. And so it was funny. We knew it was going to be a female artist, and we started thinking of people that, we wanted to work with. And every song we kind of just brainstorm who we think could work for it and kind of start reaching out and see who's interested. And Clara May was one of those first ones for that, really set the standard for how we were going to approach this whole EP and collaborating. And she got the vocal back the next day. It was amazing. And it was cool to see how that all worked. And her being in Sweden, she's so far, that was like probably the most challenging to complete overall, which is funny because it was the first one we actually did for the project. So
yeah, it is. It's funny because like Clara and Shafi were through teams per se, but very quickly we became very personal with them. It almost to the point where like even before Shafi recorded his vocal, Slavo and I were like, let's just get on the phone with him and make sure he's not an ass. And then when we got on with him, he was so complimentary to our project, and we're fans of him, and we just became friends so quickly while doing the photo shoot. And funny enough, like Slavo said, with Clara, she had sent us our vocal before we got a chance to speak to her. Oh, wow. And then we spoke to her, and it was like, that was the only time that it was like that. And when we spoke to her, it was like almost like funny for all of us, because we're like, wow, we just sang a song where we feel so connected to each other, and we have never spoke before. With Jake, we're best friends with Jake. We go out to dinner with our girls all the time. So that's a very organic one. And Kaylin started off as a team thing, and then she DM'd us saying, "I heard the song," and yes, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do the collabs happen quicker than people think sometimes too? Like, do they become kind of like is the process of negotiating kind of long, or does it sometimes like, yeah, let's do it, and then like 2-3 weeks later, boom, you're like recording stuff? Like, is it quicker than people think?
I think each artist is different, obviously, but for us, I mean, we're fortunate in this process. I'm sure that when you get to higher tier, like, you know, major label artists, a lot of the people we work with, they're very successful, but it's not like we're dealing with Ariana Grande, you know what I mean? So it's definitely pretty smooth for us. I mean, and we're super personable people. We you know, we kind of go with the flow. So whatever they want, whatever they, you know, need, we kind of, you know, adjust and here and there. And it's been a smooth process so far. And it was cool because the first collab we really did that inspired this, with the exception of Carly Page on I Feel It. We had a song with Betty Who that came out that was a re-release of Lovely that killed it. And so it was just one thing for us where we've always been creative and collaborative. And the fact that that went so smoothly and so effortlessly was a big part of like, yeah, the inspiration behind this.
And it's crazy because her song too is like she did her song I Love You Always Forever is being used in like the To All the Boys trailer for the third movie for Netflix.
Yeah,
so I feel like the timing is good too because people listen to that and then see, oh, Fly by Midnight collab, let's go. You know what I mean? It's a good timing.
Yeah. She's a huge friend of ours too now, so
yeah,
a good friend.
Yeah, we're hanging with her, and it's weird because like Slavo said that Pete, you were just touching on DMing and stuff, and that was a DM. You know, Betty. It's a little bit of a longer story, but it kind of ended up with Betty hearing the song and then her posting about it and us DMing, you know, saying, hey, you want to sing on a new version? And we're like huge fans of her to the point like she's like Slavo said, we're very close friends with her now, but I still kind of geek out that we get to hang out with her all the time because she's so epic. And that, yeah, it really inspired like how far can we take this? People love seeing us work with artists because we also write for other artists too. It's a whole other passion and just very, very collaborative in that respect. I know I'm jumping ahead.
That was my next question too. You guys write as well, right? So that was actually my next question. I mean, how different is it mindset wise when you're like writing stuff for other people and then you're actually like writing and performing your stuff, Slavo? Like, I feel like that you have to have two different hats for those. Like, I feel like that's different, completely different beasts.
For sure. I think it's a matter of being, you know, communicative. I don't know if that's a word, but and you know, and listening to a lot of music, pulling a lot of references and stuff. And, you know, for us, that's kind of how we get inspired for our music. But even for other artists, you know, we ask what they're listening to. And it's one of those things Justin always jokes. He starts sessions with, hey, what are you listening to right now? I know it's a shit question. But and it's funny because, you know, everyone kind of laughs and you're listening to stuff, you know, it inspires what you want to make, and it really helps. And it's funny, we were a minute or two late for this interview. We totally forgot. I'm in the middle of like doing a pitch song right now for an artist. And it's funny because it's a thing where I'm listening to like 5 songs of theirs and I'm trying to recreate that, but in a fresh way. And it's a different game, you know, for us, we just kind of do whatever. So.
But yeah, it's interesting too, Justin, because also like, you guys write songs for people, but you have your own songs. And like, I just pulled up like your Spotify right now, and obviously it changes all the time. And I think obviously Lovely with Betty Who is a huge reason for a lot of this too lately too. But it's just like, you know, 776,000 people on a monthly basis listen to Fly by Midnight. Like, that's insane.
Thank you.
Isn't that crazy though?
It is insane. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's like, and every day we watch that like the stock market. I don't think we could even bullshit it. You know, like it's a crazy thing for us because it keeps us inspired that, you know, what's really interesting, Pete, and a lot of people don't speak about this, but like songs from our last album that came out with Lovely on it are now gaining steam. And it's kind of like this collective that we're building that some songs maybe that were just on the album, they weren't even singles, are now catching steam and their people are finding them. And it's just, I think that's the best part. A lot of artists are like the streaming age, you know, killed digital sales, but I think the algorithm is a beautiful thing, and we've certainly, benefited from that. Yeah.
Well,
I think
Slavo,
it's funny,
you oh yeah, sorry, Slavo, go ahead.
So I was gonna go like a funny story based off because you brought up monthly listeners, and I remember when Spotify first implemented that, and we were still young in our project, and Justin and I were out at a bar, and I remember someone that we were talking to, we told them about our group, and they had like looked it up on the spot, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys have 96,000 monthly listeners!" And to us at the time, that was like we didn't even realize that was a thing, and so we were blown away. And to hear that we're like nearing 1 million is crazy.
But it's almost like the new, like, it's funny though, because it's almost like the new Instagram following, right? Like you hear about something and it's like, oh, let me go check how many Instagram followers they have. Now it's like, let's see how many monthly listeners they have on Spotify. Like it's
true.
actually a way to, it's like a tracking device, I find.
Yeah. And it's almost, it's funny because like you said, Pete, it's a fluctuating number. So it almost inspires artists like ourselves.
Is that the highest it's been?
No, I think we pushed almost 900,000 at like, I guess when Lovely really first started gaining heat, and now we've kind of been.
But the new EP with the new songs, I bet, is gonna like.
Yeah. Well, we hope so.
You hope so, absolutely, yeah.
But it does
a couple extra times for us if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. But it inspires you to release more music too, which is cool. It's cool to give. We've never been the band that gives an album and then falls off for a couple of years. We want to give more music.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love about Fly By Midnight is the following. I love the fact that you are like many artists right now who are throwing out the window the whole that you have to be kind of one genre of music. Because I feel like that's a really important thing, Slavo. Like I feel like that's a huge thing right now because there are so many kind of, obviously, there's the obvious, there's the pop, the indie, the alternative. You could say that 5 minutes. There's a lot of stuff going on in your songs. And I feel like that's important to address that genres don't kind of mean as much as they used to at all anymore, eh, Slavo?
It's so true. Yeah, I mean, that's something we talk about a lot, actually. And then with our music, it's so funny. We're in like a phase right now. We like to call it like our 90s alternative phase.
Yeah.
But even with that, it's like we still use elements of what we first started off. And there's random things where we'll do differently. Like, we're definitely in an organic phase too. We're using a lot of acoustic and electric guitar and stuff. And it's so funny. There's a viral video going around right now of this 5-year-old kid. I don't know if you guys saw it. But his mom is in the car playing a song that he just made. And it's like this beat. And it's like really random. I don't know how true it is, but it's blowing up. And it's funny. It goes from like this kind of like hip hop trappy thing to like an Odessa like dance thing out of nowhere. Yeah. It's really cool. And it's like so inspiring because you're talking about genres where like this is a 5-year-old kid and obviously he doesn't really know what the hell he's doing, but he's coming up with this thing that has no barrier. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's where the world's headed as far as music goes.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, Slavo, you said we speak about this often, but we really do, especially we've been fortunate lately to work with a lot of artists that we've looked up to. And when you kind of start these writing sessions, whether it's for us or for them, you just kind of talk about your project. And, we love about Fly By Midnight also that we could go from, we're a band at the end of the day, but we could be a featured vocalist on a dance track tomorrow. And I don't think our fans would. I think it keeps everyone on their toes. And honestly, as eclectic music listeners, which we are, it keeps us excited as well. Yeah.
It's great, guys. It's awesome to see. Now, I'm enjoying the vibes of this interview. We're having a good time. We're smiling. And I'm going to do something I do on the show from time to time that either makes people smile, sometimes makes people cringe.